we go. Welcome to Barnes & Noble Union Square. Everybody, this is really cool. We've got Kevin Smith tonight. I'm totally stoked to welcome him to our stage to talk a bit about his new book, Shooting the Shit with Kevin Smith. I don't need to really go through the litany of his achievements as a director, writer, and producer with this audience. But briefly, he is personally responsible for bringing some cred back to New Jersey with his iconic films, beginning with the brilliant Clerks in 1994. Shot for under 30 grand, which, believe me, it was so much more money then. It went on to win the Filmmakers Trophy at Sundance and the Prix de la Jeunesse and the International Critics Week's Prize at Cannes. Now, for everyone working in retail back then, I tell you, Clerks was a moment. And for everyone outside of the Hollywood system, whoever aspired to make a film with nothing but a camera, some friends, and a dream, well, was game on. Since then, Kevin Smith has gone on to be a respected multimedia player. He founded View Askew Productions and made the films Mallrats, Clerks 2, the classic Chasing Amy, Jersey Girl, Dogma, Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, and Zack and Miri Make a Porno. Currently, he is, I do believe, in post-production with his new film with Bruce Willis and Tracy Morgan called A Couple of Dicks. The man has written for both Marvel and DC Comics, appeared in many films and TV shows, and is now solidly established as a pop culture and cinematic visionary, which is really not bad for a comic book dude from Red Bank with a camera, some friends, and a whole lot of dreams. Ladies and gentlemen, the great Kevin Smith.
I don't mind telling you, I feel like such a fucking fraud, but we'll try to make it work in the world of books, I guess. This kind of means something to me because this section of New York was the first section of New York that Annie Smith planted a flag on and said, "We've come to New York," and people were like, "Back to Jersey, you fat fuck." I went to school at New School for Social Research, and I wrote that. That's a little better. So I roomed. I was just like right across the street. I mean, where are we? What street is this? Where's? I think I was on 12 Union Square West. That building's gone? Well, good, because I never got laid there once. Scorch the goddamn earth. Raze it to the ground. Burn it like a Sherman's March through Atlanta. But I did. I went to school, lived over there and shit. They asked me politely to leave the school because I was throwing water balloons at the 8th-story window. Because I lived on a 1-story ranch house in Jersey, so we didn't, I didn't discover gravity until I came here. I was throwing shit out the window with other people, water balloons. We were having a good time, and then all of a sudden, people started getting bored, and I was still like, why? Look how it goes. Just doesn't bounce, it hits and shit. And the NYU dorm was right across from us, so people would be coming out. We'd duck below the window and just listen for So I guess somebody over at the NYU dorm saw the activity coming from our window. We were in a suite. It was me and 5 other guys, as you do in New York. And the RA was coming up our way. Somebody was like, Chicky, the RA's coming. I was like, oh, fuck. Everyone scrambled. People went into their rooms within our little suite and shit. And I was just like, that just looks guilty. I'm going to sit here, right by the open window, and do homework, This dude comes in, I'm the only one in the kitchen, reading my book, writing shit down. He's like, what's going on? And I was like, what do you mean? And he's just like, what? Somebody's throwing shit out the window. I was like, no, they're not. It was a whole puddle from the sink to the window. Empty fun time balloon bags. He's like, somebody certainly was. Somebody saw it. And they pointed to this window. I went outside and looked up, and it was this fucking window. And it kind of looked like you, Kevin. I was like, dude, I was sitting here. Why the fuck would I sit here if I was just throwing water balloons out the window? It makes no sense. And he was just like, well, that's kind of hard. Maybe just trying to outthink me. And I was like, well, I'm not that clever. And so he couldn't prove it, but I got a letter to my dorm room, which was fine. But then I went home for the weekend. I don't live far from here, like 50 minutes or something like that. I go home, and my parents are like, sit down. And I sit down, they're like, why in God's name are you throwing water out windows in New York? And I was like, what are you talking about? Where'd you hear that? That's not true. They produced a letter. The school had written a fucking letter to my parents, man. I'm like, I'm 18. You don't write a letter to my parents. I'm practically fucking adult. I'm up there trying to have same-sex gender fucking experiences, man. I'm in college. I want to be wacky and weird. You tell my parents I'm throwing a water balloon out the window? My parents are like, look, and they gave me this letter, and it said, like, we've heard that Kevin and some of his dorm mates plan to repeat the activity on the last day of the school year. This is our way of telling you that if one drop of water hits the ground that's not rain on that day, we're going to assume it's Kevin, turn him over to the Manhattan authorities. And my parents are like, you should move out of that school right now. So that was when I left in shame in Union Square. Next time I came back to Union Square was to this building. I don't think it looked like this, though. There's a friend of mine, John Pearson, had written a book called Spike, Mike, Slackers, and Dykes. And it came out in like late 95, early 96. And right before it came out, a guy, John Pearson is an indie sales rep who had been involved with like a lot of first-time filmmakers back in the day. He sold Richard Linklater's first film. He sold my first film. He sold Michael Moore's first film, Roger and Me. A bunch of other people. So John had written a book about his 10 years in the indie movement. It's available here as well. It's a really great book. And Michael and I, since we worked with him and figured prominently in the book, he asked us to come speak with him. And this was just after Mallrats tanked and Canadian Bacon tanked harder. So, and both had been Gramercy pictures, right? So Pearson picks us up in a car, and we go out to grab something to eat, and it's me and Pearson and Michael Moore. And, you know, I'd known Michael Moore from Roger and Me and stuff, but I'd never met him before. And the two of us were just kindred spirits in utter failure and loserdom that night, you know? Just driving around going like, how much did you think yours was going to make? Yeah, it's over for 20, 25. So, yeah, I know that. I was like, I tell you, Mike, I would have sucked a dick to get it to 15. And he was just like... So we're driving here, just talking about like it was weird. He was really even more sad than me. I was too young to be that sad. He was just like he felt like it was done. He was like, they used to like me, they don't like me anymore, man. They didn't go see the movie. I fucked up. It's over. And we kept trying to cheer him up, going, no, dude, you're funny and shit like that. You'll be back. Don't worry about it. And I'm like, why don't you say nice things to me? My movie tanked too. But you know, Michael, he's a little self-involved. So we come here and we get out and we go to, you know, it wasn't, I don't think it was this floor, I mean, but it was many years ago, so it could have been. Come into the building and we come into a room that kind of looks like this. There's a bunch of people there. We didn't know what to expect. Nobody knew what kind of crowd John's book would draw. So we're going up to like the side aisle, kind of like I did, and people spot Michael Moore, who had done at that point TV Nation, which hadn't been around anymore, and Roger and Me and stuff like that, and then the ill-fated Canadian Bacon. They spot that motherfucker, and it was like Christ coming into Jerusalem. He was on a fucking ass, which was kind of me at that point. And people were just like waving palm at him and shit like that. And it was astounding, because I watched a person totally transubstantiate from one form to another and shit. Because as soon as that wave hit him, and it was when he was he came in and people were doing this, and then they were doing the talk up and shit, and they introduced me, and then people were some polite applause and shit for the 4 people who knew who I was. They introduced Michael, and it was just like, wow! And I was staring at Michael's face, the guy who I just spent like the last 2 hours with, who was just like, sometimes, Kev, I just want to kill myself. To all of a sudden, this dude just went from like that, it was weird. It was like Spider Sense, like how Sam Raimi did Spider Sense and shit. Everything slowed down, and I just watched